Emotional trauma, whether it's bullying, abandonment, or something you didn't see coming, it sticks with you. In this episode, we're breaking it down, getting real, and talking about how to start healing from it. Let's get into it. What is going on, world? Welcome to the High Dev Perspective Podcast. If you are new here, my name is Devonair. I've been on a journey of self-discovery and healing for a while now. For me, my personal journey with emotional trauma started back in 2020 when I decided to dive deep and face all of my shadows, allowing them to come up to the surface and have a clear understanding of why I was conditioned and designed the way that I was designed. That moment really changed how I viewed myself because I started to have a clear understanding on why I was doing certain things in a certain manner. And honestly, it's been a long road of growth and healing ever since. That's why in today's episode, we are talking about emotional trauma, what it is and how it shows up in our lives, and most importantly, how we can begin the process of healing. I've got my girl Jasmine here with me today, and she's going to share her experience as we dive into this real, raw conversation. So let's get into it. Joining me on this episode is my dearest sister. You're definitely my sister.
This is gonna be
my divine sister.
We're gonna be crying.
Yes. This is Jasmine, ladies and gentlemen. Jasmine, say hello.
Hello. I'm really so excited.
Jasmine and I have known each other, it's been honestly a total of
19, 20, 22, 23, 24.
Has it been 6 years?
Yeah, 2019 is when we met.
So we met in 2019. Yep, we met in 2019, and our relationship progressed, I would say, within the past year.
Yeah.
In the past year.
For sure.
You're also on a healing journey just as much as I'm on this healing journey. And I think that's how we've connected so much.
Yeah.
That's also a reason why I brought you on today's episode, because you've done so much growth and transformation within your own. I'm not going to cry already. Hold on.
Oh my gosh. We're 37 seconds in.
You have done so much growth within your journey. Not only have you done so much growth, but you've also helped me along my journey. And I think that there's been this reciprocation of me helping you naturally, you helping me naturally, and we're just climbing this journey, you know?
Yeah.
There's been a lot of vulnerability, a lot of just deep conversations, a lot of growth.
Yeah.
I just love the growth that we've transpired within these past couple of months.
Light years.
Light years. Oh, fast. Super fast. So that's another reason why I wanted to bring you on this episode. I knew that you would be a perfect person who is very relatable when it comes to the experiences that I've been experiencing. So a lot of this that I've been talking to on my show and on the podcast has been a lot from my personal experience.
Yeah.
So I thought that it would be great to have someone who also is doing the work to share their personal experience. Whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Everything.
So I just wanted to start with the different types of emotional trauma. We've got bullying, disaster, global pandemic, domestic violence, severe or chronic illness. These are all a few examples.
So like my life.
My life too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So
From
these are
start to finish.
these are examples that can lead to emotional impact. And for me, I would say resonate with a lot of these experiences, but I think what started was kind of like a snowball effect within my personal experience because I had daddy issues. I grew up in a single family household, and I share this story a lot, and this story, it sticks with me. So growing up as a kid, I remember hanging out with my friends, and majority of them had both their mother and father in the household.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I would do sleepovers and things like that, I used to always be around actual parents,
Mm-hmm.
a mother and father. And
Okay.
so I would always question, and I never said anything out loud, but it was just like, okay, my friend, let's just say Jordan, my friend Jordan has his mother and father. Billy has his mother and father. How come I don't have my own? I don't have a mother and father in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was when I started to question. I guess I started to question, was I deserving of a mother and father growing
Wow.
up, right? So I never said anything,
That's a hefty question, though.
very. But I never actually said anything out loud, but I just kind of grew up with it. And so what I realized is as I started to grow up in my own journey, I think that was a huge trauma response to my level of worthiness.
Oh my God.
I didn't have a family dynamic growing up. I just had my mom. So that was technically that was a family dynamic that I only knew of.
But why did it go to deserving?
Because I would always see couples, and it centered like relationships. And then as I grew up in relationships, I realized because my mom was always a single parent, she never had like she had boyfriends and stuff, but like so in my mind,
So you took it personally as a child?
yeah,
Mm.
I took it personally as a child. In my mind, I thought that I wasn't deserving of that because of how I was brought up.
Mm.
Naturally, that had absolutely nothing to
Nothing.
do with me.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with me.
Right.
But I think too, when I started to actually date, so to speak, I was also looking at love in all the wrong places. Okay. Perfect example, the guy that I was dating in 2018, um, I really genuinely liked him, but I didn't have any kind of a dynamic with relationships growing up, so I didn't know how to fulfill it. And I think that in that relationship, I was people pleasing quite a bit, and I was really whatever I could do to keep him in my life because I genuinely didn't know what else.
Pebbles.
Base. Whatever I had to do to
Pebbles.
keep him in my life, um, because but I was also liking the facade of the relationship. I didn't know anything. I didn't know, but I was also, it was more so I needed to do more internal work on myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Obviously, now looking back, I don't see relationships the same way. But
It's so interesting because I come from a two-parent household. Parents are still married. However, my view on I literally just had this talk this morning with someone. My friend was saying like I used to envy people who have like a two-parent household. Like you must have like this life and like this amazing look on relationships, and I'm like, no. It's so different because I still have a negative outlook on some relationships, like, and it's no tea, no shade to my parents, but like their relationship is very much so their relationship, and I was very much so just a child looking at bits and pieces from what I was able to see, but a lot of what I saw played a part in a lot of my unhealthy habits and thought processes in relationships. So I was still people pleasing. I was still looking in relationships in the wrong way. And it's just so interesting where I find people sometimes say that comparison of like John, Billy, Frank, and Joe have mom and dad, but mom and dad sometimes also don't set that example of healthy love. Of like, I think, bitch, I ain't gonna hold you. This last time in Mexico, what, 2 weeks ago, that was the first time I seen my parents hug and kiss.
really,
Like, I literally looked at my brother. I was like, are they hugging?
really,
Are we okay?
really,
Cut the cameras, like, in a real way. Like, I was like, oh, shit. So I didn't grow up in, like, my parents are not PDA people. And, having the healthy conversations with them as I'm evolving and as I'm growing helps me gain perspective. Because as a child, I just viewed it one way, like, these niggas hate each other.
right.
You know what I mean? Versus them saying, like, no, we just literally tried to do everything we could to keep you out of it. So if that meant, like, maybe sometimes we go in and we don't speak, we thought that that was the best way to keep you out of our BS, and we would just separate. So I grew up in a household where sometimes my parents would walk through the door and not say anything to each other or not acknowledge each other. And versus other people like, oh my God, my parents come home, everyone we kiss and hug, and how's your day? And I was like,
This changes everything in my mind because I was so fixated on how I seen him on television. And like you're telling me that the behind the scenes stuff. I never obviously saw the behind the scenes within my friends.
oh, for sure.
Di-
When someone's coming over,
exactly. You see what I'm saying? So in my mind, it was Full House.
yeah,
It was
the Cosby Show.
it was a Cosby Show,
Yeah.
and that's what I was fixated on because I saw the mom
The
and
image.
the dad. I saw the relationship. I saw, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're all sitting at the dinner table. I'm eating dinner with
the
their
family.
parents. I was like, I don't eat dinner with my
We
family.
don't do that.
We don't do that. Like,
yeah,
so I felt some type of way.
yeah.
I definitely felt some type of way. That is so interesting though,
we would
because
eat dinner so separately. Like sometimes they wouldn't speak. Like I mean, granted, so many other things play a role in that. You know what I mean? Like especially as me and my brother get older, I'm going to dance. He has football. My mom may work late or what. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so I think I have like very few memories. Like when me and my little brother still had like a little placemat and tray, and we would sit down together and eat. But we were children.
Right.
You know what I mean? There were really no late obligations. So you know we could eat and go about our night.
Mhm.
But, you know, I always like to share that very vulnerably with some of my friends who don't have that same two-parent household of like, it's not always peaches and cream. It's not always the most perfect example of love. I still was people pleasing, like I said. I still have my own version of daddy issues, despite the fact that that man lived in the house with me.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And there were still traumas that came from being in a household where I didn't see a couple go through their shit and talk about it. I didn't see that healthy communication. I didn't see what it like. I saw almost from my perspective, y'all staying with each other.
Mhm.
It just seems easier to cut the cameras.
Mhm.
Versus, you know, now that I can speak to them as adults, like, no, like we were doing work.
Mhm.
You just didn't see. So I just, like I said, like I'm getting bits and pieces at my small age trying to understand what these dynamics are and why it's, I guess I think it's normal for parents to not hug or speak sometimes, or us to not sit at the table and, you know.
Of course. I'm just looking back now because I'm realizing how high my head was in the clouds with a lot of shit.
Yeah.
You know, and this is a lot of the self-reflecting that I do on a daily basis, especially now after, you know, post healing and all this other stuff. And just like how I've had these perspectives and ideas of what I thought, you know, relationships and stuff were supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And how they've kind of creeped up into, you know, prior to my healing journey, but just like all the experiences that I've had leading up to it. Another example, you know, the whole situation with um, my status, my HIV status. So in my mind, I look back on it, I'm thinking in my head, the reason why I put a lot of trust in a lot of men at a young age, but the reason why I put so much trust in them is because of the abandonment and because I genuinely wanted them to stay. I wasn't asking one, I wasn't asking the right questions. Two, I was just like, are you going to leave me? Are you going to leave me? That's all it came down to. So, you know, as long as you don't leave me, like, I trust that everything's going to be glitter and rainbows. No, bitch.
You know I relate to that. I relate to that.
Like, no.
And the second we fuck, we go together.
Exactly.
Because I just gave you my body, so we go together in the realest of ways, and that's love. We love each other.
That's it. I wasn't thinking of all the other extra shit that comes with it. You know what I mean?
We weren't taught. Those weren't conversations in my two-parent household either, nor was it something that I saw. Like, I think the extent of those conversations, like when I got my first little funky raggedy ass boyfriend, was like, and I meant it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really like, you only have sex when you guys are in love. And that's something you do that's special. Like, I think that was kind of the extent of it. And it's not like I saw my parents ever doing it. God is good, amen. And it wasn't anything farther than that. So by the time I got with Funky Raggedy Doody Booty and
Dead.
and then I felt like we left each other. So then we have sex. He takes my virginity. Everything else that was happening behind the scenes, I can't see.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
I'm staying, and I'm just so hell bent on just the love that I thought I was feeling, without also understanding that that was filling the void of the love that I didn't have for myself, the love that I felt like I
Yep.
wasn't getting from my parents. Insert in all the other traumas that you have, the love that I felt like I didn't have from my friends because of the bullying, the environment, everything else.
Yeah.
It's like I put a lot of pressure on the sex
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that I had someone, and he became like that placeholder
Mm-hmm.
for everything. And I was so adamant on making sure him, or insert any other trauma filled relationship boyfriend that I had, don't leave me.
Did growing up, did you ever have the conversation? Did your mom or dad or the birds and bees? Did you ever have the conversation growing up?
No.
Never had that.
It was, I started my period, and to be honest, I think I finessed getting on birth control because I wanted titties. And the girl was like, "Oh my god, I got on birth control and my boobs grew like 2 cup sizes." And I done went to my mom and said, girl, I it hurt. Bitch, I ain't never felt a cramp a day in my life at that point. I think I brought like my horrible PMS onto me because I wanted titties so bad. Babe, what? For me to get on the literal lowest of lowest doses that wouldn't even make your nipple hard? Like, what are we doing? So we went on it, and that's when they gave me the first conversation about sex, because I was still a virgin. I had the boyfriend, I was still a virgin, and we got on the birth control. And then when I did have sex, my stupid ass, I could have. First of all, I also didn't even really know how a period worked.
Mm-hmm.
We got dyslexia,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
here I am thinking, like, I knew that it was once a month for like a week,
Mm-hmm.
but something in my brain was like, I get it every week for a month, and I'm like, that's every day.
Right.
So I was just confusion, right?
Right.
So when I didn't get it the next week and I had sex, I said, I'm pregnant.
But you weren't though.
I wasn't.
Okay. Okay.
The period lasted the week of the month that it was supposed to last, and I was going through a lot. I was confusion, and I remember having to tell my dad because, you know, you have to go to your pediatrician until you're 18.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm 17 at this point. My mom's out of town. I have to go to a doctor's appointment. And my dad goes, "You know I know everything, right?" I'm like, "Nigga, what are you talking about?" And he was like, "You know the doctor's going to ask you questions." And I was like, "Okay." And I'm still, you know me, babe, like, you got to say it.
Oh, they're gonna ask you the question.
They're
like,
going to ask you, "Are you sexually active?"
Right.
And I'm still not getting it because he's speaking in motherfucking code.
Right.
And I was like, "Okay." And he was like, "Is there anything you need to tell me?" And I was like, once I finally caught on, I said, "I thought you know everything." And he said, and he like grabbed a handful of peanuts and just like threw them at me. And that was the extent of the conversation.
Mouth on floor.
Mouth on full floor.
Mouth on floor.
But like my mom fully knew, because when I did have like a real life pregnancy scare, I was texting her about it. And she actually received it very well. She was very open about like some of her experiences and something that she had gone through. But other than that, there was no like, this is a condom, this is how you put a condom on. Like, I think it was just like the pull-out method doesn't work. And I'm still, actually at my school too, sex ed wasn't even really taught. Like, we had the sex education class, but I remember very vividly, I was in the class with all the football players. We had the football coach, and all we did was watch movies. So you know nobody was paying attention.
What movie did you watch, though?
Couldn't tell you.
So we watched the one, the guys were in one room, the women were in the other room, and all they talked about was deodorant. And
That's not sex.
Literally, exactly. They literally just said how at our growth, when we grow into, our voice starts changing.
So they gave you puberty.
And we left with a bag with deodorants. The women left with bags of tampons. But there wasn't a conversation about sex or anything like that. It was just the progress, the transition of your body from, a boy to preteen to whatever, that little situation.
We had a chart of a penis and a vagina, and we just learned like terms, like the proper term, labia, vulva, clitoris.
Oh no,
penis.
We didn't get any of that.
That is the extent. I cannot tell you about a STD, about pregnancy, And I know, like, it was the varsity football coach, so everyone, like, wanted him versus the other. The other teacher probably hit the curriculum. He wanted to pass his students.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what was going on. So not only was I not getting that at home, my parents probably genuinely thought that I was getting the education
Mm-hmm.
in school. Like, they moved us to that area because of
Mm-hmm.
it was a very affluent white area. So they just thought, like, everything's
Mm-hmm.
checked off.
Right.
So I'm so ignorant. I'm so stupid. I don't know anything that's going on. I don't even know how I had sex. Cause what? Like, what are we doing? Thank God a bitch found Pornhub.com.
Right.
Cause and that still was
Right. Dead. Dead.
cancel, clear, delete. Cause don't ever let that be your teacher. Yeah, we didn't know. So I'm so ignorant when it comes to everything and then some. So no, I didn't know about no pregnancy. It was just being fast.
And the only reason why I asked that question in the beginning is because the conversations we didn't have the difficult conversations.
Nope.
And
not even about feelings.
1000%. You can't talk about your feelings.
No.
We didn't have these conversations in my household. I had to learn through the school of hard knocks. If you think about it. No, dead ass. I had to learn through the school of hard knocks because every experience I put myself in that position. And then when you know what I'm saying, the experience actually happened, I couldn't be mad, but other than myself. But then I wanted to be mad at like, well, how come I didn't get this conversation? How come no one told me this? How come no one did this, that, and the third? But like, it was already too late at that point. It was honestly just too late at that point.
Because it happened.
So like when I got diagnosed with HIV in 2016, I remember in that moment I was just like, okay, well, obviously I was still unhealed. I was still loving and operating from an unhealed place. I just said to myself, okay, so how do I move forward from it? Do I let go with my life and just like let myself disintegrate? Or no, dead ass. Or do I just keep going and just try to live a healthy life?
Right.
And so obviously I chose to live a healthy life.
Mm-hmm.
And thank God, I actually had a friend who had received the diagnosis in his own journey and experience. And I had already witnessed what it was like through his perspective of, living with HIV. Mm-hmm. So in my mind, I was like, okay, so he can do it. I can do this. 100%. But still, I was still disappointed because a lot of this in my mind, there was a point where I literally had to go back and be like, okay, a lot of this probably would have been eliminated had I had XYZ, if I did this, that. But because of where I'm at now, I'm also realizing this was technically designed for me. This was the way that I was supposed to go up, brought up, within my journey, how I'm supposed to overcome this experience. The contract. The soul contract. This is my soul contract. And this is something that I had to make acceptance with. And I've made acceptance with it now within this level of healing that I am enduring.
Yeah.
It's a wild experience. But yeah, looking back, it's just like,
WTF?
What the actual fuck?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What the actual fuck? Take a moment and think about what kind of trauma you've experienced. It doesn't have to be life-changing. Sometimes the smallest things leave the biggest impact. Awareness is the first step. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the trigger and trauma responses. Is there any triggers and trauma, maybe not now, but like prior to the healing that we've done, can you recognize or identify any of the triggers and trauma responses that you may have experienced, obviously, prior to where you're at now? Because obviously we know that they still show up, but we're in a space where we can identify and recognize them now.
Right.
But before you actually address them, can you identify what those were and like how they looked like or showed up in your reality?
I feel like not loving myself was always the issue.
Don't make me cry. No.
That is the journey.
That is the ultimate journey.
Loving yourself, finding your value, finding your worth, standing on it, not wavering on your boundaries. So within each of those, unleashes the pool of trauma triggers, generational curses, and anything,
repetitive patterns,
the relapse, everything, and then some.
Yep.
So it's it's almost hard speaking from the other side because everything is just intertwined. You know what I mean? Like, I can't necessarily isolate one specific thing anymore because I can tell you that triggering, like, my people pleasing, I didn't love myself, triggering the overstaying my welcome in a relationship, I didn't love myself, I didn't value myself. Everything is just drawing from that umbrella of I didn't know who the fuck I was. I didn't know the power that I had. I didn't know the queen that I was. I didn't know who I was here on this earth, and I didn't know who the hell I was up there.
Yep.
And so everything played a part in its literal everyday activities. Whether I'm dimming my light because I realize I'm not being accepted by people in my community or in the industry, and I'm seeing myself being ostracized, and instead of standing in that and being like, oh bitch, I trigger you.
Yep.
Ew.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yep.
I said, let me make myself so motherfucking small so I can have friends.
Yep.
Why do you want friends so bad, Jasmine? You don't value yourself. You don't love yourself. You don't see yourself as whatever. You know what I mean? So that played into a career aspect. Why did you stay in a 3-year relationship with someone who literally said they don't value you? Like,
clock it.
Real bad.
Yep.
And then clock me right after. Because what?
Mm-hmm.
Having those conversations all come from that point. That loving yourself, and that I don't think we realize how much, I don't think people understand the capacity of what loving yourself means, because I remember the first time, this is crazy, this is actually just coming to me. I remember the first time someone told me you just need to love yourself, and I had never been more offended a day in my black ass life, because I was like, what do you mean? I didn't know what loving yourself meant. I didn't even know the first step in showing up for yourself to feel that love. The way that I think that we put all of that effort and that energy and the shit that we were doing for these niggas in these relationships should have all been what we were doing for ourselves. Yeah. You got issues, let me be here and work with you for it. You got trauma, let's talk about it. Let me be here for you. You're having a hard day, let me sit with you. You're feeling lonely, let me come over. But not once did we ever do that for us. Yeah. So when someone would do that for us, that's what we felt like love was. So we're able to dismiss and look past everything that was being thrown our way because we thought that we were getting what truly is this false representation of love.
Yep.
Because had we done it for ourselves, we would have been like, oh bitch, I already do this for me. I comfort myself when I'm lonely. I've met myself in the uncomfortable dark spaces when I'm upset. I bought myself flowers. I took myself to the restaurant. And that's just very surface materialistic level. Yeah. You know what I mean? What do you do to genuinely pour into you to make yourself happy? Your structure, your routine, your space, like showing up for yourself so you don't mistake what some funky ass person is doing at the bare minimum ass level as love.
In my reality, first off, thank you. As you're telling your story, images and things are coming in, right? They're coming in. I lacked confidence. I lacked personal power. When I say I lacked, it was empty.
Non-existent.
Okay? It was non-existent because I lived my life people pleasing.
For validation, though.
For validation.
For a false representative of what we thought love should be.
Yep. And because of that, I was being taken advantage of.
In the worst ways.
Honestly, I just didn't recognize my power. So now looking back, because of the experiences that I had, it all falls under that umbrella of self-love and self-worth.
Yes.
Honestly. And now, because I have such a high level of it, you know what I mean? There's no way, I will refuse to let anybody talk to me any way less than that I see myself. And because that was it. I never saw myself in this, where I'm at now.
You know what's so crazy?
I hold myself to a high pedestal.
I reckon like so many of the things that we went through. Follow me, because you know the thought be it be doing its Dougie up there. So many of the things that we experienced were because somewhere in those people's spirit they saw our worth and our power, and they were on assignment to dim it. So all of those were just triggers. Essentially, those were triggers for us to like in those moments, like our guides, God, everyone up there was like, clock it, clock it, clock it, pop back, know your worth. And instead, I think sometimes we wore it.
We wore it because we didn't have the damn tools to remove the bitch.
We didn't know. And so when you're talking about you didn't know that self-power to be like, I don't own that. Yep. That's not for me to wear. You're triggered by me. You feel my light. You see my worth. You see my power, and you want to minimize it. And I'll speak from my personal experience. That's where the bullying came from. That's where the talking down on me came from. That's where the ostracizing me came from for a lot of situations. But there is just this undeniable light and essence that we all have. And when someone's not right and fitty fucked up within, whatever comes out of them is solely meant to say, hey, are you going to wear this like a robe, or are you going to just recognize that it was never for you?
But I had no other choice within my reality and my journey because I was unaware.
Yeah, we had to wake up.
You know what I mean? I was dead ass sleep. So I was just allowing it to just build. It got to the point where I've been building since from childbirth all the way up until now.
Yeah.
And so now, because I'm in this space of, I love that you call it the umbrella of like self-love. It's just like the rain. we've got the protection now, right? And I'm using it as a metaphor. Look at now that we were under this umbrella of self-love, all of this shit, the rain is basically all the people pleasing, the this, the that, anything that is supposed to soak us.
Word.
Okay.
Word. I'm following.
Okay, follow. Oh, follow. Okay. Everything that's supposed to fucking soak us, literally, we're protected by it now because we have that umbrella of self-love. And that's the thing. Oh my God.
Oh my God. No, I was about to say the same thing because you said that perfectly.
Because that's
stop.
Ooh.
No, you said that perfectly.
I just never had it. I never had it. I just genuinely never
had it. You had
it.
She was just close.
That's the thing though. I've always had it.
Mm-hmm.
We all have it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We all have it. It's just a matter of being aware and stepping into it and recognizing it for what it truly is. And letting it know, does this serve me? Is this building me up? Is this making me better? You know what I mean? And identifying the yeses and the nos within it. So,
there's something that you told me, and it's something I'm still working on in my self-love umbrella. I'm not gonna lie. I remember you telling me how you saw me and how you took me in the first day that we met, and how you would say, like, you just saw, like, this light and this energy about me. And
Can I share it?
Please, because I'm not going to be able to say it because okay. I'm still working on it.
Very first time I met Jasmine, physically, I was doing a dance.
Yeah.
We were doing a dance.
Yeah.
You were supposed to be my partner.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember them pairing me up. And I kept looking at you. And I was just, because you came in with this high level of energy. And I just fell in love with it. I was like, who is that girl? I hope that they paired me up with her. So she paired me up with you. And I was dead ass excited. I was like, yes, this is exactly. I didn't know anything about you. I just knew that you came in with a big ass smile. You came in with a big ass smile. And you just exuded light. And I was just like, I love her. I'm gay as fuck. But I was like, not only do I love her, like, she's drop dead gorgeous. I just need to be with her. I need to be with her. And then I was so pissed off.
When I left.
Because you had to leave. You had just got booked, I think, in that moment to go on tour with whoever it was. Moneybag. So, Moneybag, if you're hearing this, it's okay because I got her back. But you had to leave that night.
Yeah,
I remember.
I had to catch a flight that night.
You had to catch a flight that night because you had to go to Atlanta. I remember this whole thing because I was so sad. I remember driving home because they paired me up with the other girl and there was no connection with her. We actually worked together. We did the rehearsal together.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
Yeah.
We did rehearsal together. I was like, yo, I think rehearsal was done. You got a text. It was like, yo, I just got booked. I got to leave tonight. I was like, this is some bullshit. this is some bullshit. I'm mad. I'm genuinely mad. So they ended up telling me that I'm gonna work with the other girl who, like I said, I had no connection with. Didn't even want to do the damn dance after that point.
Bye.
I remember I didn't, but I ended up doing the damn dance. I did do the dance, but that was the first time I saw you, right? And I didn't see you for a while, and then
the gym.
I seen you at the gym. You came back to the gym. I love how we migrated over here, but let's talk about it.
Because I'm gonna bring it full circle.
Okay, so and I remember you in that light. You had that same light. This was how long ago was this? Because there was a long gap that I didn't see you for a while.
2021.
Wait a minute, when we did the audition
was 2019.
That was 2019, and I didn't see you for like 2 years after that. It was right before my mom passed away. Yep, it was 2021. Okay, you had that same light. You had that same light, and I remember I was just like, wow. And then we had a one-on-one. Technically, we had a one. Yeah. I sat at the front desk
for a hot minute.
I was just like this the entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me, because like you had a level of seeing the world. Your perspective on the world was how I saw my perspective on the world, but you had a beautiful way of delivering it. It
was my very first introduction into my spiritual awakening.
Okay.
That was when like the veil was like, dee, 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 dee. Yep. Like it was just like fluttering. Like there's something more to this world. There's something beyond. And I was just kind of experiencing what it was like to tap in.
And I had just gone through, I was starting my healing journey at that time. And then when I met you, you were conveying everything that I was already discovering within my reality, but you articulated it in a way that was just like, oh my God, she gets it.
Yeah.
She sees it exactly the same way that I see it. What the fuck? So
we're not cuckoo.
We're not cuckoo. And I'm just sitting there like this.
Eating it up.
Eating it.
Yeah.
Eating it. But yeah, so that's how
I love you.
I love you more.
Thank you. I receive, and I appreciate that. That is so hard for me to speak of myself in that way, even if I'm just reiterating someone's words. So thank you for saying that. But I say all that to say, he saw me. Let's bring it back to 2019. Because 2021, you know, although I still didn't really understand the capacity of like the umbrella or everything and then some, 2019, I was still very much so asleep. I was still very much so not confident. I was still very much so not operating from a sense of self. Everything was I'm not going to say a full facade, but I definitely wasn't as confident as I am now or anything in between.
Okay.
But you saw me in the way that I see myself now. And just like how you talk about just this light and this aura. And like the first time I remember do you remember when we were in the sauna?
Sorry.
What?
What? Yeah.
We were talking in the sauna and you were just saying something of like just how you saw me as like this divine feminine and like we were really stepping into it and like you were saying that you just see my crown and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I just aspire." Like it means so much to me that other people can see that in me, but the journey is to be able to see and operate it within self. But to bring it back to everything, like so many people in life see you in your power and see you in your worth. And when you are chosen and when you are destined, you just can't, no matter how many jackets you put on, no matter what you're wearing, no matter what people throw at you, there are still going to be some people who see your light through it. And they're either going to celebrate it and uplift it, or they're going to be people who want to make sure you never recognize what they see in you. And so that's where you start to see the little things and the triggers and the traumas show up in every day when people who are just so intimidated and so threatened by the light that is just undeniably peeking through all of those layers no matter what. But
I don't want to cry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, because I was just thinking about something. I think what it was like within the whole journey, like I felt different, but for the first time in a long time, when I met you, I felt like I was seen, and I was seen for like who I authentically am.
Same. Same. I was just talking about that.
And so yeah.
It's a space.
It's a safe space.
So safe.
Why are we doing?
You want some water? It's so safe to really be met on this level. Like, I mean, I don't think I've ever met anybody who's so similar just on every capacity, but the values that we share, and I think we have made it such an environment where we can show up in any emotion, any portion of the thought process, any portion of the trigger, the trauma, or whatever, and it is just so received. Whether we have any comment on it or not, it's just you're received and you're celebrated in every season and you're celebrated in every phase.
Yep.
Phase 1, phase 2, isolation,
Yes.
manic pop out.
Yes. And that's yes, and that's a huge part, a component of this whole journey too, because you're gonna go through so many different trials and tribulations, I guess.
Hello?
Whatever you would like to
Yeah.
call it. Everybody has their own way of calling it what they need to call it. But at the end of the day, it's all universal. It's all the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I went through an isolation period. I came out. You're still there. Like, I went through so many different parts of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
But you've always respected. You've always heard. You didn't take it personal. You know, just whatever. Do what you got to do to get to where you need to go. That's what you've always done, and I did the same for you. Because I couldn't take anything personal. There's no that your journey is your journey, my journey is mine. But what I love is that we're still here.
And I'm glad we met when we did, because in the other versions, I would have been like,
exactly, and I say that too.
Bombastic side eye.
I genuinely say the same thing too, because like in the beginning, it was kind of cute though how the universe gave it to us in like little
increments.
Yep, little small doses, right? And then it's like, okay, y'all
when you're ready,
both y'all niggas are doing the work. Okay, now they can really merge.
Yeah. And I'm just so beyond grateful that of all the shit that we signed on our contract, we signed on each other.
That part.
Literally. We signed off on some dumbass shit.
Literally.
But signing each other is by far my favorite, and I have so much gratitude.
Yeah.
And I even like, hello. No. Yeah. I did my makeup really well. Fuck that. Fuck you.
You got a paper towel over there.
Fuck all that. I'm gonna be a motherfucking thug. What was said?
You're just grateful.
And that.
Yeah, you're just grateful. You're just genuinely grateful. I'm trying to figure out. Hold on.
We was talking about triggers. Now we're in love.
Well, I mean,
we love each other. The umbrella was great. Damn. No. This all relates.
It definitely all relates. Perfect.
Do you have a turning point? Like, was there a moment in your life that you were like, damn, bitch, ain't shit motherfucking changed? There's one specific moment where I said, bitch, what the fuck you been doing? And it was when, remember I told you I've had that journal since 2010, and it's made it with me through all the life. Reading that journal was the most humbling, disrespectful slap spit in the face, because I said, now, I know good and damn well that you are not reading an entry from when you was 13, and you are now 26, 27, going through the same shit, but in a different font. Are you well? What, like, and that was the moment for me when I was like, is anyone home?
Okay, yes. My pattern was I was still chasing the wrong things, i.e., I was chasing men. Not only just men, emotionally unavailable men, broken men, but men in general. That was what my whole desire was growing up, is just chasing men. Bitch, I needed to be chasing myself.
Mine was also men. However, this is massive trigger warning. I don't know what you need to do, but big trigger warning for the people listening to this right now. A common theme in that journal was wanting to no longer be on Earth. Okay. But the trigger for that, this is going to sound so dramatic, was men and feeling like I wasn't being loved. And the love wasn't being reciprocated to the point where I felt so worthless that I didn't need to be here anymore. And that I'm giving so much and I'm putting so much out, and then I'm not being met with the same amount of love, and then internalizing that and then wearing that. And then that's when I must be worthless. I must be ugly. I must not be good enough. I must not be lovable. what is the point of being here? And when I read that entry after entry after entry, years went by, dates went by. I went from high school to my graduation to my first boyfriend to then the breakup of that boyfriend to then college to then a college breakup to then a random argument with a college boyfriend, and every single entry had the same ending. And I said, girl, I know you fucking lying. I looked at that, I read that, I said, oh, Tyler Perry, whenever you're ready for this, baby, do I got you. Because this is insane. This is insane. Damn. And I was reading that like, ain't no way that this is what it's resulting to. And then that is the first time where the narrative flipped to the mirror and the concept of reflecting and what are you not doing for yourself? Because why are you so willing to let yourself go? You can look at all of these amazing things that I have going on in my life. All my life I've heard, you are such a star. You are destined for great things. You have this light. You're going to be this thing. None of that was worth me staying because these funky, raggedy, dookie, booty ass, whale poo ass motherfuckers.
That's not funny. Yes, it is.
Yes, it's fucking hilarious. Fuck that. It's hilarious. Weren't reciprocating shit that I wasn't even offering to myself. Hello? So that was my moment where I was like, baby, something has to change. You need to figure this out. That's where my turning point was. And that's when I really started to take this shit seriously. And then I was able to like put the pieces together with the synchronicities. Then I was able to put everything else together, starting to identify the triggers. The first being if I'm not being communicated to a certain way, if I'm not being, oh, hello, if someone didn't want to be my man after I gave them this Gucci water park. Yep. What do you mean you just visited Splash Soak City and we don't go together real bad?
Yep.
You didn't go and ask my ring size right after?
Yep. It was for me. We're still on you, but for me,
we're here.
I just got to say this. It was for me. It was the after 2 a.m. phone calls. It was in my mind. That's what I felt worthy of. I genuinely felt worthy of it. Then something just clicked and I was just like, okay, I deserve to be somebody's daytime situation. Not even that. When I say situation, I mean like
real deal
during the day.
Yeah.
Why do I have to, I was conditioned. I genuinely conditioned myself I was worth being somebody's after hours.
Emotional support panda.
Yep. Emotional support. There you go. Yeah. But then I think that's when the trigger hit me and I was just like, no, I need to work on myself because I'm putting a lot of my energy into these men and chasing these men. And what am I getting from it? Absolutely nothing.
And barely even an orgasm.
Absolutely nothing. Barely. Oh, well.
Oh.
But I say that to say it was just like, okay, so what is the common denominator? Well, bitch, your worth. I'm lacking self-worth. So self-worth turned into that, and it manifested itself into self-love, to healing, to acceptance, to, you see what I'm saying? It just, the umbrella got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm just like, okay, now I'm in my power.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for sure it had to be that because my common denominator in my experience was I should have been chasing my career. I should have been chasing these other things, but yet I wanted to chase. I love love.
Yeah.
We both, we talk about this all the time. I genuinely love love, but like I was looking for love in all the wrong places. And I didn't see it any other way than that. And so I realized because I was giving my love so much externally, I was like, okay, so what if I flip it and do internally? That was hard. Especially in the beginning. It was dead ass hard.
You know what's so crazy? As you're saying this, I'm thinking about my inner child right now. And maybe this is something for me to take back to the books. But I do not think, like what, how do I even put this into a sentence? Think back to maybe like 25-year-old Devonair and how you were living at that time, still asleep, in a coma, knocked the fuck out, doing what you do, doing your big one, right? I wouldn't even know the first step of pouring into me. I wouldn't even know, like, let's say we weren't like how does a parent, how does a friend teach someone how to pour into that? Like, think about being a child. I don't know how to teach that. I almost feel like I had to, I mean, granted, duh, like I had to go through these things to understand, to see the patterns and realize that I was fed up and that I hated it. But like, I don't know that I would have been able to go through any of this differently. I don't know that I would have been able to reach this place any other way. I don't know that there's anything that my parents could have done for me to get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what that looks like, because there are times even when I was being bullied, and whether it was at dance and the girls are being malicious or whatever, my mom, all she would really say is, they're just jealous of you.
Mm-hmm.
But I still didn't understand the weight of what that meant. I didn't understand that that was a projection. I didn't understand that my light was triggering them. I didn't know, the conversation didn't go deep enough for me to understand what the sense of self was. You get what I'm trying to say? Like,
yeah.
Versus like, those fucking TikTok kids that we send each other? It's like, they are woke. They are awake. Yeah. Like, I couldn't even, like, they were born that way. I don't think there's anything that my parents could have said that would made me just be that. Because I was almost going to ask you, like, what could we have done differently? But I truly don't know. Like, I genuinely was operating from the mindset of, this is love. I was fucked up. I wasn't just doing it because I had a sex addiction. I wasn't doing it for the pleasure. I was doing it because I thought I was going to get love.
I did too. Same.
Nothing about it was, because, bitch, we wasn't coming. We wasn't having a good time. Yep. I was doing it because there was something in my brain that said, this is going to equate whatever is missing.
Yep. If I do this with him, I know that this is going to be
forever.
This is my forever.
This is love. I'm going to be cherished. I'm going to be valued.
I never thought temporary. I never thought of any of the extra stuff that comes with it.
The second the legs and the panties went down and open, we are in love.
Yep. We go together. Real
bad.
Real bad. No, dead ass.
So it's almost hard for me to say what could I have done differently, because I would have told you in that time that I was operating from the most authentic space of self. And that's why I say, when I was told for the first time that I didn't love myself, I said, you sound like you're smoking dick. You sound crazy.
Smoking dick is wild.
You sound so crazy, because all I do is operate from love. I had no idea. Everything I do is for love. I showed up because of love. No, babes, that's people pleasing. I stayed up with you and let you do X, Y, and Z because that's love. No, I lacked boundaries. I slept with you because that was love. No, babe, I didn't love myself. I was filling a void. Yeah. So I just had this skewed version of everything that I put out is because of love. So how could I not love myself when I'm you know what I mean?
Yep, I do.
So there's truly not anything that I could go back to younger Jasmine at those times and say, baby, we should have, because at the time that was my truth.
So the only thing that I did when I went back, first off, thank you. Yeah. Obviously, thank you for sure.
It just took me a minute to get there. The ramble was
no, I get it. No, I totally get it. The only time I ever go back and think about certain things is the only time I went back, I had went back because I forgave my mom and my dad for their experiences, because they were conditioned a certain way. So because they were conditioned a certain way, that was a generational curse upon me. Yeah. You know what I mean? For sure. That's how I know what I know, because of what they experienced and what they were, able to share, be comfortable, whatever. So I forgave them in that aspect. But going back to 25-year-old Dev, see, now looking back at it from this consciousness, I'm just like, it was just honestly designed for me to, it goes right back to the soul contract.
Yeah, that's the point that I'm making.
It just goes right back to the soul contract.
We had to learn it that way. I think we definitely prolonged it at times, because, like,
1,000%.
You know what I mean? Like,
hard-headed.
Hard way and the long way. But see it now, and when I go back to certain things, of course, the advice would be, to implement the tools that I now have in my bag. But, like, what I was really trying to say was, there was nothing in the moment that would have made me snap into it. Like, I can't think of anything that someone could have said that would make me snap out of that mindset and be in the consciousness that I'm in now. It had to be learned experiences. It had to be through the hurt. It had to be through going through the patterns. There's not just one singular sentence or form of advice, because in a sense, homegirl telling me, I think you need to love yourself, was that advice. Yeah. It was her way of trying to make that, like, snap shift happen. but it was never going to happen until I looked back and I saw how the triggers and the traumas showed up on a day-to-day basis, how they showed up regularly, how the people-pleasing showed up, and the, everything else that I had just named, for me to see how habitual that was and how much that took over my day-to-day, how much my life revolved around this skewed, foul, wrong, loud and wrong version of self-love.
Yep.
I had to see that in all of its truth and all of its fucked up glory.
Yep.
For me to say, ooh, this ain't it. But it's like, I really encourage people to like, genuinely, when you find yourself asking those why questions, like, why does this keep happening? Why can't I find love? Why can't I find my person? Or why isn't X, Y, and Z happening for work? Like, if you have to write it down, make a mind map or whatever it is, like, truly go back and say, okay, if I'm asking why is this happening, it's repetitive. Okay, what's the common denominator? Okay, then every question that you ask needs to be a deeper question. Once it's why does this keep happening? How does this make me feel? And when this makes me feel that, where has that stemmed from before? And so on and so forth. Like every why, there should be another who, what, when, where, why.
There's a reflection. It's a mirror of, if you're desiring that as your why am I not in a relationship? Why am I not in a relationship? The common denominator is you.
With love.
You know what I mean? Because you're lacking what you're putting out in the external. Why you're not doing it is because you're not getting it from yourself.
And that's also coming from that place of lack. Like if you're still saying, why am I not in a relationship? Like, granted, like,
why are you not in a relationship with yourself?
And I was going to say, there's grace and there's space for, like, being human. You know what I mean? Because you and I say that, like, bitch, when is my husband coming?
Yeah.
But there's still an understanding that I love myself way. You know what I mean? So, like, you have your human room for that type of question, that conversation. But when it's coming from a place of devastation, of, like, literal lack, I cannot be without, OMG, OMG.
Then I feel like there's some internal
There's a place
healing.
of lack within self.
Yeah, there's
where
some
can you
healing
meet
that needs to be
yourself to still find your source of happiness, your source of self-worth. And I think right now with like the TikTok age, a lot of I can only say because I've only seen the girlies post it, of like, don't wait for that man, take yourself to that restaurant. And like, although I do agree with that, I still feel like that's so superficial. That's so surface level.
Really?
I mean, I believe it's a beautiful start. Like once I started dating myself, why wait for the man to run you a bath? Why wait for the man to take you to the movies? Yeah. But when you're sitting and it's no longer just about the dates and you're sitting in your house and like you want to cuddle, you want to have sex, you want to feel companionship, you want to feel touched. Where do you meet yourself in those aspects? Like that's to me where it's emotional.
Okay, I see it now.
That's that, like the movies, the dates, the flowers, buy yourself flowers. That's great, but those are materialistic, tangible things. Where's the emotional value that you show up for yourself in?
Yeah.
What do you do in those moments to make yourself feel full of joy and full of love and full of bliss? When I'm feeling a little bit lonely and I'm feeling, a little bit sad, okay, what can I do to make myself feel good? Do I want to do a full-fledged 13-step skincare routine right now?
Right.
Do I want to do my hair? Do I want to create some structure? Do I want to journal? You know what I mean? Just something that fully pours back into making me feel the strongest, healthiest, most on top version that goes far beyond a restaurant that you tried.
I think they say that because they want you to have the experience of just having it, and
for
manifesting
sure.
It'll help, aid within the manifestation.
And to not mistake that as fake love just because this man took you to this restaurant that you were dying to go to. Like,
exactly.
Baby, I can do that for myself. I've already booked a reservation for 1 at 8:30 p.m. and I called myself a car and I have my own dress and,
for sure.
And I'm not shitting on that. I still do find so much value in that, but I do recognize the other layers.
Because we did that in the beginning of our journey.
Yeah.
We went on self dates.
Yeah.
I still do it to this day though, but like it's in a space now because we hold ourselves, at a higher pedestal within our own realities. But it definitely helps.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think you start to recognize what are the things that make you feel back in your power. You know what I mean? Like the other day I come over, Dev's doing his fucking nails. Then he's going to go get his hair cut. And then he comes home.
My eyebrows.
The eyebrows. He comes home, he's doing his eyelashes.
Eyelashes.
Like we're on FaceTime, we're doing all these things. But those are the things that puts him back in his power.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And does.
And yeah.
And does.
And those are the things where he's like, oh, I'm been that bitch.
Yep. Yeah, and
him. You know what I mean? And will forever be.
Talk that shit.
So those are the things that you start to figure out,
Yeah.
whether it's like, okay, for me, I know I need to wake up. I like a clean house. I need to make my bed. That makes me feel strong. Cleaning my kitchen. Okay, now
Yeah.
like I've created a space for me to feel soft and feminine. Okay,
Yeah.
that's check one. When I do my skincare and then my face is glowing, boom, do I want to wear makeup? Whatever it is to where you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I did this for me.
We're in full energetic alignment with mind, body, soul, spirit.
Next segment.
Done.
Because that's the, yes.
But that's what it is. We're genuinely in full alignment with it. And I think that we were, well, I can't speak for you, but in my
yes,
reality,
you can.
I was lacking in areas. You know, I had body down. I've always been, no, dead ass. I've been taking care. I've been in the gym since I was 21 years old. I have yet to leave that gym. Body was already checked. My mind, fucked up. Okay, mine all over the place.
Okay,
so that was one of the biggest things, because if you think about it, let's go back to the first segment. We were talking how I was conditioned to see love. That's how I genuinely saw it. So my mind was just a little bit altered.
mm-hmm.
So I had to unprogram the knowings of what I thought, or what, and not only what I thought, what I was conditioned to knowing of what love was supposed to look like, and all these other things. So that was a huge component within my journey that I had to revamp.
Yeah.
You know, definitely revamp. And then soul, of course, like I just didn't have any kind of.
Bitch, my shit was floating in the ethers, just doing her big one. We was not in connection. She was floating and I was running.
Didn't even know that they exist. Didn't know that the higher self, there was, you know what I mean? There was nothing. I didn't have any type of faith. I didn't have Nathan. Nothing in Nathan.
At all.
At all.
Yeah.
So I had to get myself into alignment with these areas of my life. And once I finally got them in alignment, it was just like, it took me to a whole different level. Start paying attention to your triggers the next time you feel the emotional reaction, whether it's anger, anxiety, or anything else. Pause and ask yourself, what just triggered me? The more you observe, the more you can manage. It also strengthens your self-awareness.
And don't be afraid to ask the deeper questions every time. Ask why.
Always ask why. I like that. Per. Yeah.
Okay.
I love this.
I'm ready.
Where we at? Cute. Okay. So. So after all the triggers and trauma responses, the biggest question is, how do you start healing?
I think everything that we kind of just said, once you start to ask those why questions, is when you can start the healing. When you get fed up with seeing the repetitiveness of the hurt, of the heartache, and the more you ask why, I think is when you start the healing.
I think that with those whys, create a list of those. You said that, right? Create a list of them.
And that's where you start. Like, I think for everyone saying, like, how do I start? Where do I start? Start with what the fuck you're asking about.
Yeah.
Start with what the fuck you're crying about.
Yeah.
Start with what is making you
angry, less than. If you're feeling low, anything that's making you feel low, ask yourself why. Write those questions down.
And from then you will literally see how everything is connected, because I know a lot of people say, like, well, it's deeper than that. But start with what's jumping out off the screen.
Mm-hmm.
If it's something as simple as, like, I'm just frustrated because I don't got a man. Why? Because I'm lonely. Why? Oh, got you. Now niggas is stuttering. Well, what do you mean I'm just lonely? Okay.
Because what you're doing in that moment, you're literally breaking it down to find the common denominator, aka the root of something.
You will be able to find the answer when you start to ask yourself, well, why am I lonely? It's not just as simple as, like, well, because I want to be with someone. Okay, I'll ask you a question. Why aren't you okay with spending time with yourself?
Boom.
Okay, now you start to understand. Well, I'm bored. Or the girl that I went on a hike with today, she was telling me how. She's like, I have been inviting people over, or I'm smoking, or I'm, like, doing anything but sitting in the space by myself, because then my head starts to, like, run wild of all of the shit that I'm going through. And I was like, well, that's where you need to be. And even if you have to, I've given people advice, like, if you have to just set an alarm or a timer for 10 minutes to ask yourself those questions. You can start slow because, bitch, yes, it's overwhelming. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but you have to slowly start to recondition yourself to meet yourself in those uncomfortable spaces. We're so used to running. We're so used to avoiding, or we start to feel away. I'm going to call a friend. Oh, I'm sad. I'm going to call a friend. You're feeling sad. Set that timer for 10 fucking minutes and allow yourself to feel and see what comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Sit in silence for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel? Do you feel uncomfortable? Do you feel uneasy? Do you start to think about things that come up? Maybe you should address those things. And that's how you start to do it. It's an active decision to meet yourself in those uncomfortable spaces and show up.
And I think the hardest part is to start because they're just I remember when I first started, I was genuinely uncomfortable with like sitting in silence with myself.
It's scary. I called Dev. So right after my breakup, I remember being on the phone with Dev and being like, I haven't been alone.
Oh, I remember that.
Oh, I
Oh
haven't
my
been alone
God.
in years. I said, I am so afraid for it to get dark and lonely in this bitch because I am so afraid of who I'm going to have to meet inside.
Yep, I remember that.
I am so scared of the conversations I have to have with myself when it's dark at night, when I'm alone in this bed, when I am sad, when I am upset, when these feelings come up. I am petrified of what that's going to feel like.
Would you feel like that is a huge part of the journey though?
Yeah. But I think that comes
like the warfare in a way.
oh.
Because you're now you're connecting to self in that moment.
I just remember I couldn't even sleep in my bed. I slept on the couch because the bed felt so big. It emphasized the loneliness. There was so much and leftover energy in the room from he and and like I felt like the living room was a much more neutral space. And I just remember making the decision to affirm myself, and I grabbed that journal and I spoke power over me every night. I spoke affirmations over me every single night, and I just like envisioned the most beautiful white light over me just to give myself a sense of warmth and a hug because I knew nobody was going to do it. Dev held space for me on the phone, and as much as I love and adore him, it still wasn't enough.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have been enough if it was my mom, my dad, Dev, or my ex, because it was still an external thing. I had to learn to be my source of comfort in that darkness.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to give myself a hug, to show up for myself emotionally. And for me, that looked like I find a lot of power when I write things down. And then to speak that back over me, and then to sit and really envision everything that I just wrote and spoke over myself and envision that in my reality. And that's where I learned to show up for me in my personal journey.
I don't think that people truly understand how important it is with affirmations and affirming yourself.
That's when you find out how powerful the bitch is.
That's because it's one thing, even just to start, it wasn't clicking in my journey. It wasn't. So I would put them down. I remember I'm looking at some of my journals too.
The fuck out of this emotional support panda.
I love that. I was looking at some of my journal entries from back in 2021 with my affirmations versus where I'm at now. And you can tell there's a major significant growth because they were just very, I love myself, blah, 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 blah.
Oh my God, same.
You know
I
what
am strong.
I am strong. But now it's just like, I got things in that are like, I'm the biggest boss that you've seen thus far. You know what I mean?
Bitch, I'm making $50K a month off of showing up.
All of these things, but there's so much detail in it now. Even just starting in the beginning, I wasn't believing what I was saying.
Ooh,
I wasn't. I genuinely wasn't.
But I will say,
It's a start. I was gonna say
it's okay,
right?
Because for me, I didn't believe not a goddamn thing that I wrote or said. I just was like, we've got to do it because I know sitting in this darkness and being petrified of myself is not gonna cut it.
I was also seeing, some of my peers, because as my journey started to change, my peers started to change too. Mm-hmm. And I started to see some of the peers, and most of the peers that I was looking up to now, they were talking about affirmations. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna figure it out. But then as I was going through my journey, not only am I writing this shit down, but I'm also going through phases of shedding.
Yeah.
Okay. So because I'm going through the phases of shedding, the affirmations started to get powerful and powerful and powerful and powerful. You know what I mean?
100%.
So I can't stress it enough, and I talk about affirmations all the time. Just sitting there with a pen and paper. I recommend a pencil, by the way.
Do you?
I do recommend a pencil, and the reason why I recommend a pencil, allegedly, it's not alleged. There's a connection between the wood and the ethers,
Wow, because I love my pen down.
or a blue pen.
Interesting. I have a black pen.
I'm gonna use my black pen.
Just not a wooden pencil connected to not an ether insight, nor blue. My black ass, very specific pen that I went to 3 Staples for.
Listen, and I went to like 4 Walmarts.
Because I wanted that black ass fucking pen, and I don't give a fuck what you say. I'm gonna use that black ass motherfucking
But
pen.
but here's the thing: if it works for you, that is your journey.
And Zill.
You know what I'm saying? And I just found that when I switched over from a blue ink to a number 2, not even a number 2, a lead. That one, right there. Yes. When I switched over to a pencil, I was like, oh, bitch, I'm really feeling it now. I'm genuinely feeling it. But yeah, for sure, affirmations. We talked about mind, body, and soul. Getting in energetic alignment with all 3. Yeah. And when you get energetic alignment with all 3, I recommend stepping into the shadow just a little bit. Well, not a little bit, but stepping into the shadow. I don't recommend stepping into the shadow first and foremost. I jumped into it.
And did?
I definitely jumped in. Oh, yes, we did. We did. I jumped into shadow. I was quick. And when I was with my therapist. We bought that book. I remember when my therapist told me, he was like, when we did, he helped me uncover the healing of my father and like my father being absent, right? And so when I did that, I was like, yo, it worked. Let's talk about something else. Let's go deeper. And I remember him telling me, listen, I swear, he said this. He said, I get that you're really trying to heal and all this other stuff.
I hate it already.
I swear to God, he said it just like this. I get that you're trying to heal, but where you're trying to go, there's a lot of emotional triggers and responses that are tied to it.
Yeah.
So I don't think that you want to do this right away. And you know what I told him? No, it's fine. I can. Let's do it. Let's talk about it. Let's hash it out. And so within that year, we uncovered the root. But he loved it though, because my biggest takeaway was like, I would have this aha moment every time we had a session. I was like,
you guys could see Dev's aha moments. They're the most amazing things to witness.
I light up.
Yeah.
I'm just. And then everything starts clicking. I go from
you literally like see the or
yep.
like you're like
yep.
Then
so that's the reason why I did XYZ, because of this. Blah, 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 blah. And I do that. Yep. And bitch. Oh my God.
Yeah. But then I like the beauty with you too is like, okay, so this is how how it's gonna be.
Yep.
And like the immediate what's the word? We
can talk about it.
No, what's the word? Transmutation.
Transmutation. Yeah.
No, is that the word? Transmutation.
Transmutation. Transmuting.
But how do you put it in current terms? Like the immediate.
Cut the cords.
No, the immediate transmutation.
Oh, alchemize. Because transmuting is alchemy. You're taking a negative situation and
he flipped that bitch.
Oh, we flip it.
Put the thing down, flip it, and reverse it.
Jasmine has been a part of the journey of, obviously, I had a lot of unhealed trauma with loving, emotional, unavailable men. And you didn't coach me, but you definitely led by an example, but you saw things that I didn't see. And I allowed you to tell me, because you were like, do you have space for XYZ? And I was like, please, because I'm not seeing it.
That was such a fun phase in our lives.
Oh my God, it was so different.
No, that was that phase.
So you would see something that I wouldn't see, and it was like in that moment, I was like, oh, I gotta let him go. I gotta cut the cords.
Immediately.
And so I did that, but it was just those aha moments. I would honestly say and consider that I am energetically designed and aligned to jump into the shadow head on. It is not for everybody. It is. I will say this again. It is not for everybody. However, it is for me, because even in this moment, sometimes I'm still addressing shadows and some motion. I'm just like, oh, okay, I know what I got to do now. Now it's more softer and milder. But anywho,
We have a huge capacity to feel. And I think that's one of our superpowers.
mm-hmm.
Being the cancers that we are, we're naturally a little bit more vulnerable and emotional and open to those things. So I don't know how to empathize, but I have an understanding for people who are not naturally more emotional
There
and
it
who
is.
operate on a more logical sense. Jumping into the shadow is all about the feels.
Yeah.
It's all about the like triggers make you feel, and for someone who is not a natural feeler, that makes you want to run for the fucking hills.
Yep.
People like us, where it's like, no, bitch, I feel like I need to cry.
Yeah.
We have to cry.
We were designed to feel.
Because how else are you gonna get through it? Where people are like, oh my gosh, I want to cry, but then they're immediately gonna start to place some logic on it.
Yep.
So if you are someone like that, that's my advice to people. Where I say maybe like take the shit in increments. Once you feel like you've asked some questions, I don't say like don't cut yourself off. Like if you feel like you're on a roll, allow the wave to like ride it, but give yourself increments and understand like, okay, I'm feeling this, why am I feeling this, and just like if you almost put a little bit structure on it to please that little logical side of yours, because we just feel. That's why we can go deeper, and that's why we can go straight into the shadow. But people need time to assess those feels. All of our feels unravel into something that's greater, and as long as we're feeling, I think we feel like we're in a good space.
And I think that people, majority of people, we have the gift of feeling, obviously.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't even want to open up the door.
Because we recognize
feeling.
even feeling something that's quote unquote bad or negative is still a positive in our world, because it's going to allow us the space to transmute and understand and go deeper. Whereas people, naturally, you're not judged. You're so validated in the sense of like, when you feel something that's bad, the natural response is like, bitch, I don't want to feel this. This doesn't make me feel good.
And then you shut off.
You shut off, you avoid it, you run, and then you fulfill it with something different, whether that's a distraction, food, sex, alcohol, playing a game, hanging out with friends. So I encourage you, that's why I say, once you start to feel something that's uncomfortable, set that timer. If you need to give yourself 10 minutes.
This is the challenge, you guys. Listen to
like,
this.
Give yourself at least 10 minutes to really feel it to that capacity. If you're afraid to let it go farther, like the girl today, she was like, I'm afraid that I'm going to become depressed. Like, what if I get overwhelmed and consumed in the emotion? And this is the exact advice I gave her. Put a timer on it. I'm going to honor myself in this feelings for such and such amount of time. That way you're not continuing the habit of running away from what you're feeling. Fully dive into that feeling for those minutes, however long it is. Ask the hard questions, and then when that timer goes off, you can take your breather and step away from it so you're not feeling too overwhelmed. People like us, when we would be sitting days, hours, like there will be times where I'm sitting in the house, not a TV was on, not a music was played, not a phone was answered, because I went from couch to bed to floor to cabinet to like I look like a scene out of a fucking movie, because I'm just like in the emotion so heavily, but I'm having those conversations. But for me, I don't know how to feel unless it's at 100%.
Yeah.
I don't know how to turn the emotion off. I have to let the emotion run its course through and through for me to feel like I have reached completion to where I can let it go. Versus other people, they can start and stop.
Yep.
So if that is you, then do that just so how it works for hello, that wasn't a sentence. Do that how that works for you, while still implementing the growth, while still taking charge, while still, pushing yourself. So the next time you feel like you're about to cry or something's uncomfortable and you're feeling that urge to run, or you're feeling that urge to supplement it with some sort of distraction, say, okay, I can give myself 10 minutes. I can give myself 5 minutes to feel. Please don't be that person that just thinks time heals all, because time does nothing but push shit under the rug.
Yep.
You heal all.
Yep.
Meeting yourself heals all.
I like that.
That's why I built me tattooed on me.
Ooh.
It's all for a reason. You determine how this goes. Time does nothing but numb the shit, but best believe it's still there, because you're gonna pop off when that shit pops up again, and you're gonna be sitting there trying to act confused. I don't know where this is coming from. You didn't address it.
Yeah.
Just call a spade a spade. Y'all don't know me. Dev knows me. I got some bite to my bark when I try to be real. But
Period. I think that I can only speak from a male's perspective, and what I've noticed is a lot of men have a hard time opening up. A lot of men have a hard time expressing themselves.
Yeah.
A lot of men have a hard time showing feeling.
Yeah.
Feeling. And that was also something, and I talk about this a lot on the podcast, and I was conditioned to And now it's a polar opposite of who I am designed to be. So
I always say a
imagine
Cancer
me,
man, I can only imagine
I
that
was
feeling.
fucked up because
You
I
feel so
only want to
heavily,
feel. I just want to feel, but people are like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry,
and you're a
don't cry.
black man.
And I'm a black man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All my life I had to fight.
Please stop.
But my what I was gonna say was I encourage especially men of color, men in general, to allow yourself the grace to feel and
Yeah.
apply what Jasmine just said as far as giving yourself at least 10 minutes. Because if you gave yourself 10 minutes, guess what? That's 10 minutes that you've never given before.
Hmm.
You showed up for yourself in 10 minutes and you allowed yourself to feel those feels.
And you might be surprised at who you meet in that space.
There's so much that uncovers from that.
That version of you that shows up in that darkness and then in that uncomfortable space may end up being like your best friend. That inner child who's fine, like, oh my God, you're seeing me.
That is, but that in my opinion, I feel like that is your inner child being seen.
Yeah, like and just I'm just saying, like, to feel that feeling, that shock factor of experience you and your inner child, you may love it. You may find peace in it. Like, yes, it's uncomfortable, but you get to meet a version of yourself that has been so far gone, and you realize it's not that bad. Like, now Dev and I,
I
like,
love
truly,
that.
we enjoy the shadow work. We enjoy those experiences. I enjoy when I'm being called to go internally. He knows me and my inner child, we be beefing real bad sometimes, but I'm always so blown away at the strength that that little girl has inside and the things that I learn from her,
Mm-hmm.
how she communicates, how articulate she is, and then
Mm-hmm.
how I get to she shows up for me in those dark spaces. She is my peace. She is my comfort because she has been in there. And then I get to show up for her when I change the pattern. I show up for her when I break the cycle. I show up for her when I choose to do different, and I show up for her when I choose to speak to her and acknowledge when she's crying out.
Yep.
So now you just have this, like, working in tandem relationship with those broken pieces of you, and you start to find peace and love and harmony, and those scary spaces don't start to feel as scary anymore. You don't want to run from it anymore. They're not as uncomfortable anymore because you now find peace within. And now we're talking about the harmony with mind, body, spirit, because you're so connected internally with those quote unquote broken, unhealed, nasty pieces of you. You start to hug them, you start to meet them, you start to mend them and put those pieces together. And now you're just like built this bitch brick by brick in this motherfucker in a real way. You showed up for you in those real way. 10 minutes can go a long way. Then it's 12 minutes. Then it's 15. You don't have to jump from 10 to 20 to 30. Bitch, if you went from 10 to 11,
Yep.
you went from 10 to
that's
11.
growth. That is growth.
You went
We
from
call
10 to
that growth.
11. And
That
then it's
is
11
growth.
minutes and 30 seconds.
Yep.
And then you're doing it.
Yep.
And that's all you can ask for, because in the past you were running. And then it's wait. Just start. Just start.
I got to read this to you. This is something that I came across, and it says the healing process isn't linear. Of their setback moments of doubt and days when it feels like nothing is changing, but if you keep doing the work, whether it's through therapy, meditation, and journaling, or just getting real with yourself, you start to notice old ones don't hold the same power over you anymore. So it's just a day by day.
I love that the old ones don't hold the same power over you anymore, though.
Yeah.
That
Day
is
by day.
so powerful.
Yeah. Grace. We talk about grace all day, every day. We're still implementing grace even in our realities in this very moment, because we go back and forth between our human and spiritual sides. And so
That's another topic we got to talk about.
that's a whole I'm definitely down.
The way we thought we had Woo!
I'm definitely down. But yeah, I think for sure just giving yourself grace and just each step. I love that you said even you do it 10 minutes, you do 10 minutes and 30 seconds. Guess what? That's a huge step. I don't care what anybody says.
No.
A
Huge.
step is a step.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And it will be acknowledged as such every time.
Every single time.
That's one of my favorite things about our friendship.
I love that. And even when I started meditation, I started doing like 5 minutes.
Yep.
And then now it's down to 10 minutes. Now it's 15 minutes. Bitch, now I do 35 to 45 minutes.
See, it's so crazy because the first time I was ever called to meditate, them bitches told me I needed to do 30 minutes. And I was like, hello?
No, I can't. I couldn't. I couldn't even sit with myself
Could
in silence for 30 minutes. Now I'm just like, bitch.
and loving loving every bit of it. But
Yeah.
that used to be so scary to me because they jumped from 0 to all day. I
Yeah.
was like, you hate me.
A lot of this the process of this, a lot of this process within this journey is making the uncomfortable comfortable
Yeah.
and making it seen
Yeah.
for what it really is.
I never understood that. Like, people always just say, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I never understood that until I had to meet myself in the uncomfortable.
Yeah. So,
And that's truly, like you said it, that's truly all it is.
that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much it. I have to thank you for sharing your personal journey.
You guys, this is the most professional he's ever been with
I
me.
know, right? I know. Okay, but dead ass.
So
I really,
profesh. Because we do not, like, I'm like, we're on.
but I'm very thankful for you to express your vulnerability. Obviously, not just with me, but with the community, my community. But just being open, being vulnerable, and just sharing your personal insight, because I know genuinely there's somebody who needs to hear what you have to say.
Thank you.
Of course, of course. I know there's somebody that needs to hear what I have to say. We're a collective.
Yeah.
We're a healing collective. So, thank you so much for being on the show.
Anytime, Dookie
I
Booty.
feel like Oprah right now. Thank you
Thanks
so much for being on
the
the. Wait, give me a hand. Thank you so much for being on the show.
I'll invoice immediately.
If you're in the thick of it right now, know that healing is possible to start with that first step. Whether it's recognizing a trigger, seeking help, or just giving yourself that permission. Remember, you've got this. If you enjoyed what you've heard, please consider subscribing or following me on your favorite podcast platform. And again, if you really loved it, leave me a review. It helps me reach more listeners. Reach out to me on social media at The High Dev Perspective, and that's on Instagram. And let me know your thoughts on today's episode. Or comment down below. Lastly, if you have a topic or a question that you want me to cover on the show, shoot me an email at thehighdev@gmail.com, and I might feature your question on an upcoming episode. Thank you so much for listening. I genuinely, truly appreciate it. Your energy and time is very valuable, and I hope that there's at least one thing that you could take away from this conversation. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, stay creative. Happy healing. I'll see you next time.